Hi Stampers, today I'm going to show you how you can make these cute little boxes and some bags like this. These boxes don't require any adhesive to close them, and they will hold 3 Lindor lint truffles or any of several other different kinds of candies that I'll show you later. And you can make these with whatever supplies you have at home, but for these particular projects I'm using the supplies that came in the Mistletoe and Holly paper pumpkin kit. So if you took delivery of this Mistletoe and Holly paper pumpkin kit from November 2015, then you're lucky because you're going to have all the pieces that you'll need to recreate 5 each of the 2 boxes, which are there, and you'll also be able to create 5 of these bags with the supplies. Then you'll run out of some of the pieces, but you can still make 5 more with the amount of envelopes that were included in the kit. The pieces I'm going to work with first are these pre-printed cards, and they've also been pre-scored right down the center, so they're actually 5.5 by 8.5 with a score line at 4.25. And then you also received in the kit the envelope, which is the same size as just a standard card envelope. And that's what we'll be making the bag out of. Okay, for this next part, you're going to need some type of scoring tool. I'm using the Stampin' Trimmer, which has a scoring blade, which I have marked with S, and a cutting blade, which I have marked with C. So I don't want to mess this up. I'm going to slide the cutting blade down to the other end of the Stampin' Trimmer. So I'll go through this first the way that I figured this out to use with these patterned cards that are printed on one side and blank on another. Again, these came from the paper pumpkin kit. So I'm going to first line up the edge of my pre-printed, pre-scored card with 1 1/8 on my Stampin' Trimmer, and I'm going to run the score blade across it. And what worked out for me, this may or may not work out for you, and I'll go over the overall measurements in just a minute if that works better for you. I then lined up the score line that I had just made with the 2-inch mark on the Stampin' Trimmer, scored there. So we have 1 1/8 inch to the first score mark, 2 inches to the next score mark, 1 1/8 to the next score mark, which is the score mark that was originally put on the card when it was pre-scored. So I want to just go back and forth between 1 1/8, 2 inches, 1 1/8. So this next one is going to be at 2 inches again. And then I'll line up that last score mark with 1 1/8. It's a little bit difficult because it's sort of between the guidelines on the base of the trimmer. And this one, instead of scoring this, I'm actually going to cut that last 1 1/8 inch strip off. And that's what we're going to be working with for our box. So 1 1/8, 2 inches here, another 1 1/8, 2 inches here, and another 1 1/8. Remove that. Let's slide our cutter out of the way again. And then down both sides, so my score lines are going this way right now. I'm going to turn this a 1/4 turn, and then I'm going to score down each side at 1 1/8. And there we go. So if you were taking this from a blank sheet of cardstock, what you would want to do is start with a piece of cardstock that you have cut to 5.5 by 7 3/8. That's the size that we ended up with. And then you want to score it at 1 1/8 inches. The next score is going to be at 3 1/8 inches. The next score, if you already have a card that's pre-scored, we didn't actually do that one because it was already pre-scored, but the next one's going to be at 4 1/4. Then there's going to be one at 6 1/4. And then this is the one that is, your cardstock is actually 1 1/8 inches longer than that, and so that gets you to that 7 3/8 that you started with on the length. So your next step is going to be cutting each of these flaps up to the 1 1/8 inch score line that you made on each side. Now there's a trick when you are trimming out flaps and you're going to fold up a box. It makes it easier if you trim away a little bit right around where they're going to fold. If you choose to do that, I just want to warn you, these long rectangular flaps right here, there's 2 up here, and then there's 2 down here. I would warn you not to trim anything away from those, because you're kind of going to be using those to line up the score lines as you're folding up, and you'll see what I mean later, but I'll show you a little bit of that trimming. So I would not trim off the edges either, these end edges. So what I'm talking about is if you like to make a little teeny tiny angular cut in from the end to the point where that score mark goes in, and I think you can see that. I'm not cutting these long ones, I'm just cutting a little bit off the inside edge of this little short flap. And I'll run that around and cut all those pieces out so you can see what that looks like. So there you can see, I basically just cut each of these short flaps only on the side where they would be touching up against one of the longer flaps. And now we're ready to fold our box. So before you get started folding your box, you will probably want to press down along all the score lines. If you're using a patterned, pre-printed type of paper, especially if it's blank on one side and you want to use that for the inside, you should make sure that your scoring is pressing down into the pattern side or the side that you want to use. It's going to give you a better crease with your scoring. And then when you're folding all of your score lines, fold them towards that side that's going to be the inside, that plain side that you're going to use. So this goes the same way for all of these folds. See how I'm sort of like folding them towards the inside of the box? That's what you want to do with each of your score lines. Give it a little bit of flexibility there. So when we adhere these, I love the fast fuse. You don't get the fast fuse in the paper pumpkin kit, but it's just so great. I can't do without it. So you do get a lot of like little tiny glue dots. If you really wanted to make do with those, I think you could use them. What I would do is put maybe 1 dot here and 1 dot here. I don't know, you can count them out and see how many you have. If you want to use more, great. But the fast fuse is so easy, you don't have to pick anything off of one sheet and put it down. So we're going to be putting adhesive on each of these small tabs. So there's 6 tabs we're going to put it on. The fast fuse is really sticky, so I'm going to run a line sort of at, like I was telling you with the little glue dots, right here near the fold, and then right here near the end. Just make sure you don't get it over off into the inside of the box. So you'll want to run your fast fuse, and then whenever you're done, you don't just pick up the fast fuse because it'll pull this long booger string of sticky stuff. So you press down and just slide it over to the side, and it basically cuts it off. So we're going to do this on each of our little flaps. Okay, and I think I didn't quite get this all the way from the edge here, so I'm going to add just a little bit more. Okay, and now we're ready to fold. When we're folding, we can go from one end all the way through to the next. Just make sure that you're not mashing these down with your hand and sticking them actually together. So what I'm going to do is fold this piece back, and then this rectangle piece, I'm going to gently line up this side with the score line on the smaller piece. So it's basically making a straight corner there. I'm going to line those up so that it makes a nice straight corner, and then once I have it in place, I'm going to press it down. And then you can choose to go all the way to the end and do one on one end and then do the other side, but it seems like it might work a little bit better to go to the opposite side and get that corner done, and then move to the next one in line. This one can be a little bit tricky because you're folding the box down in, so you might want to sort of push your tabs out of the way so they don't stick on the other side while you're working on this side. Once again, you're going to line up that straight long rectangle with the score line on the short piece. Wait till you get it in place and then squeeze it firmly. Same thing here. I wait till I get it in place, I'm going to squeeze it firmly. And you can go back in and sort of press those again later. Just get them firm enough to where they're going to stay for you. Press it again, and press it again. And you might find that on one of the sides of your box, you have a little piece. I don't know if you can see this or not. Like, I've got a little bit of a piece still sort of sticking out. I just didn't pull it far enough in to line up with the score there. So if you have some really sharp scissors, you just fold this back and just kind of trim it up to the point. You don't want to trim it like all the way around, because then you risk sort of cutting that in an uneven line. But at this point, your two flaps here just go to the outside of the box, and you have what looks like maybe a little mini donut box. If you choose, you might want to grab your 1.5 inch circle punch. Don't know if you can see that there. And use it as a corner rounder. So the way you do that, ooh, cat hair, is to stick the end, the corner of whatever piece you want to round, into that punch, and just punch that off there. So you're going from the underneath down into the punch, don't do it wrong like I almost did, and then trimming it off. And this is also handy because you can use this to make like a little thumb notch. If you can kind of eyeball it, I think is okay. Just slide the punch down to where it's going to punch maybe about a half circle or less, and then you have a nifty little thumb hole that makes it so much easier to open and close the box. So that's what you're going to do for each of the boxes. What I did using the paper pumpkin supplies for this box was I layered some of the pieces. You get these pieces with it. The red piece on the bottom is actually a long piece. I cut this piece, I believe, to 2 1/8 by 4 1/4, and then I cut that in half, so I would have two pieces that are 2 1/8 inches each. The reason I did that is because these are like a little smaller than that, and they're already pre-cut to that size, so that just worked for me. And you'll see on these boxes, if you make them, that there's actually just a little bit of a lip, because these polka dot pieces, these green polka dot pieces, are 2 inches. That's like exactly the width of my box. So I wanted this to stick out just a little bit. Now the only problem you may encounter with that sticking out just a little bit is where it sticks out in the back, and you can't like, really like press it firmly to smack it open, but that's okay. I mean, who wants to smash their box that way anyway? I have no clue. And then you can see I did the red at the bottom. I did the green polka dot layer on top of that. Then I used the twine, which again, all this stuff comes in the kit. Wrapped that around a few times and tied it in a bow at the top. I used the rubber stamp set, the word joy, and this also comes with the cherry cobbler ink spot. So all you need is a block for clear acrylic stamps, or photopolymer I should say, in order to stamp that. And then you get these nifty little punch outs for the holly. You can see I just punched them out from there. And what I did was I figured out where I wanted to lay them. Oh, and I guess I didn't say, the part that you stamp, you get the little piece already cut to size to stamp the word joy on. For these little holly bits, they have sort of a long tail to them, so you might want to sort of trim them off. I also felt like it was like way too many pieces of holly leaves, and so I cut the third one off of each of the ones that I used. And you can just keep those, set them aside in case you find something else that you want to tuck them into the side of. And then the last part is, when you put it all together, you can layer these. There are some Stampin' Dimensionals, again, that come in the kit, and there's eensy beensy ones too that you can use if you want to pop them underneath these pieces of leaf that are sitting by themselves, so they're not so likely to get, you know, smacked around and torn off. I think I've got some little bitty ones under there you can see, and again, those came with the kit. And then the last step that you're going to want to do is to grab these cute little half pearls that are self-adhesive, and they come in the kit as well, and just choose how many little berries you'd like to use to embellish that. And I'll walk you through a little bit of the final assembly on this box. It's the same box, holds the same stuff, same measurements and everything. It's just that I used a different card. I'll show you again real quick. These are the two different kinds of cards. There's 5 of each of these pre-cut, pre-scored cards for the kit, and then there are 10 envelopes. So working with this green striped card, I once again, I used the second piece. This is one of those large red pieces that I told you I cut to 2 1/8 by 4 1/4, and then cut in half so that each square is 2 1/8 inch square. I then took another piece that was already cut for the kit. These are some white banners. It's kind of maybe hard to see unless I put it there. Maybe now you can see it. They've got this cute little jagged edge, and I cut this one apart. It's 2 inches wide, so I cut 2 inches. Not sure if you can quite see that on there, but it's 2 inches wide, so I cut in 2 inches from the side, and this gives me 5 pieces that are 2 inches by 2 inches. And then I took the stamp set that comes with the kit, and used the same cherry cobbler ink, and on the 2 inch by 2 inch white piece that you see here, I stamped this little holly with berries, just over and over again in a pattern. And then I found some little pieces of this other, I guess it's mistletoe, since the kit's called Holly and Mistletoe. So these are the mistletoe punch outs. You can kind of see the shape of that. And what I did was I just took some pieces sort of off the edges of just one piece of mistletoe, and then there's still plenty left over. And, oh no, I'm sorry, I lied. I think I took the whole thing. I did. So I took the whole thing, one of the mistletoe things, so you can pick out whichever way works for you. I guess I just thought it would be faster to take the whole stinking thing and just slap it down there, and then let whatever come out that wanted to come out. I will tell you that these didn't quite come out like right where I wanted them, so you can see they're not adhered down. I sort of pressed them over towards the direction that I wanted them to kind of stick out. I tied a little teeny tiny bow with the twine around the base of the little sprig of mistletoe. And this right here, the brown, is left over from when I cut the edge off of the pre-cut and pre-scored card to make the box. So this is basically 1 1/8 inches wide, and I just used a strip of that. You can see that the corners are rounded. I also used the 1/2 inch punch the same way that I showed you earlier, to just stick the corner down in there and punch it off to round it. And then the last little bit, of course, is, you know, layering everything onto here. You've got the cute little teeny tiny glue dots that will fit wherever you want to hold something in place, and the small Stampin' Dimensionals wherever something's going to kind of be raised up, but you only need a little teeny tiny adhesive, and that's it. And so now I'll kind of run through and show you some of the things that these boxes will hold really quick. Okay, so here are a quick few items that you might choose to put inside the little boxes. 2 Ferrero Rocher candies fit in there fairly well. Of course, the original, which were 3 Lindt truffles or Lindor truffles. 4 Ghirardelli squares will fit comfortably in the box. If you're like me, you might have a whole bunch of these mini candy canes still lying around that nobody wanted to eat. Likewise with these little peppermint, and although I have to say I like the spearmint ones, so those don't usually last. But you could just toss a handful of those in there. And these Ghirardelli minis are really cute. So you can actually, I stacked 6 of them in there. But, you know, so if you like totally don't want to look like you're a skinflint, then definitely do that. But you could also just toss like 3 of them in there and they fit comfortably. And again, these boxes are really awesome because you don't have to adhere them. They don't have to, you know, be adhered in order to stay closed. You don't have to untie anything to open them and close them. So people can open them and go, oh, neat, nifty little gift, thank you. And then they can still appreciate the box without having torn it up. Okay, so now we're going to move on to making these little gift bags. And these are made from the colored envelopes that come in the Mistletoe and Holly kit. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. You can use any standard size envelope to make this. But if you have the kit, then you've already got them. And you're going to be using the same ink pad, stamp set, and some other supplies that have come in the kit. So this piece right here, the white piece that was stamped on, if you remember, I told you that I cut 2 inches off the end of these little banners that kind of have the teeth or the ridges on the bottom, and I used that for this box. Well, the piece that was left over is this piece right here. So I just used that part on the box. You can't really see it, but I stamped the holly in cherry cobbler on top of the cherry cobbler envelope. It just gives it a slight bit of texture back there. And then this piece that's sticking out the bottom is actually from the boxes. So like when we made this box, when we started from the pre-printed 5.5 by 8.5 cardstock, we put our score lines all the way down it, and at the end we ended up cutting off 1 1/8 inch from the edge of the card, and that's what I put right there. Let me check and see. I think looks like it's about 3.5 inches that I trimmed it to, and then I just used my scissors and cut a little notch in there. And the Merry and Bright stamp is in this set, so I just stamped that right onto that piece. Put a little piece of the punch out holly on there, put some little things on there. You might want to, for the top, I chose to punch a little hole in there so that I could use a little bit of the twine that again comes with the kit to just hold the bag closed. So it's a simple little bow. Yes, they will have to, you know, pull it open in order to get to the stuff inside, but it's just a simple bow. So here we have the envelope that came with the Mistletoe and Holly kit. It's got an adorable little design on the inside. So again, this will work with any standard size envelope, and I'm talking about an envelope that would fit a card that's like 5.5 by 8.5 folded in half. So it's going to fit a little card in here that's basically 4.25 by 5.5. In our Stampin' Up catalog, that would be our medium envelopes. So this is already got the stuff on here. I just have to lick it, and then I'm going to stick it closed. So once again, I've got my Stampin' Trimmer with my scoring blade marked with an S and my cutting blade marked with a C. So what I want to do is, you can see this envelope has been sealed. You can see the flap of it here. I want to cut 3/4 inch off of one edge. Now, I can measure a little bit onto this side, and sometimes I just like to measure on this side rather than that side when it's like less than 1 inch. So I'm going to just line that up with 3/4 inch on this side of the cutting blade, and I'm going to cut that. So what you get is the sealed envelope, and if I can put my fingers in there, when it opens up, you can see the design on the inside. Then we're going to take this cutting blade, slide it out of the way. These next measurements we're going to be also using 3/4 inch, but we're just going to be using the scoring blade. So here's the open top. You're going to want to score on each of the sides and the bottom. So let me just run through that. And I like to press fairly firmly because I'm going through 2 layers here. So I will just flip this over and do the other long side. And then I want to make sure that I'm not scoring the top. We don't want a score line up here. We want a score line on the bottom. So once again, 3/4 inch. Once you get your score marks on your bag, down the sides and across the bottom at 3/4 inch, you're going to want to stick your hand in there, and we're going to open it up and then press it into this box, or this bag shape with the little gusseted sides. So in order to do that, we want to make sure that these creases will fold sort of both ways. If you can see which direction you have scored, if you can fold towards the side that sort of has the bump. So on this line, I scored on this side, so I pressed it down, which means that there's a raised score line on this side. So if I fold it in towards the raised score line first, then it breaks the fibers a little bit more easily. This one was actually scored on the other side, so I'll break it that way first. And I've got my bone folder here, so then you're going to go back through and fold them the opposite direction. And you might want to just give them a little crease when you're doing that. And you can be kind of gentle and sort of go slow with this, because you're going through 2 layers and you don't want to like really, you can see here maybe I was a little bit too aggressive. Since the paper is white on the other side, that it sort of cracks it, and then you can see the other color coming through. So just keep an eye on that. Sometimes you can't avoid it, no big worry. If you have the little ink spot that came with the kit, once you're done with your bag, if you see that there are white edges sticking out that you don't like, you can just kind of take the ink pad and tap it over the white. And then just make sure you get a tissue or paper towel and wipe over that, so that after it's kind of set to dry for a minute, so that you go and wipe away any excess, because the envelopes are just a little bit coated, so the ink isn't necessarily going to dry quickly or all get soaked right into the envelope. So you want to do that so you don't get red on your fingers, or your recipient doesn't get red on their fingers. Okay, so this is the back of the envelope. Here's the front. This is going to be the front of our bag. So you stick your hand down in there, and my fingers are probably right about to here, to that crease mark. And then you're going to press down on the center of the crease mark at the bottom while you're opening the bag sort of wide with your fingers. And now see, this part that started sticking up right here is part of the flap that didn't have the adhesive to moisten on it. So for that part, if you want to take a little bit of adhesive and press it down so it stays out of your way, you can do that, but it's really not necessary. So what you're going to do is press that bottom in until you end up with this little triangle on the corner. So again, you just press the bottom in. See how you can see this best. And then once you get these corners pressed in, then you just end up with this little triangle that you press together. And these triangles are going to end up going underneath the bag. But before we do that, we're going to fold each of these sides in towards the gusset. So we've got that taken care of. And then once you've got the sides all, it's just easier to handle the sides if you do that before you adhere these down. And then your final step will be adhering these 2 little triangles to the bottom. And you'll want to adhere them firmly enough to where your bag will stand up straight when you set it and not sort of bow out to one side or the other. Okay, so we've got our cute little gusseted gift bag, and one thing that I neglected to mention was if you do want to stamp the little holly or some kind of decoration in the background of this, do it before you score it or cut it or anything. Just do it right after you seal the envelope. I chose not to do it on this one because it just takes a little while for that red ink to dry, and I don't want to get it all over my project. So you could just use this just like this and adhere these pieces, as I mentioned before, to the top right here without punching a hole and cutting it. You might decide that you want to wrap a little twine around that little sprig and just put a bow in that little part so that you do have a little bit of the linen thread on your project. But you could leave it open with this on the top and then just tuck a little bit of tissue paper and your little gift down in there. So if you have a gift that isn't really going to fit within the dimensions, especially really easily when it's closed, like something small that'll fit right down in here, then you might just want to leave your gift bag open at the top and tuck in that tissue paper. So that's all I've got for you now. Again, if you were not fortunate enough to have that paper pumpkin delivered to you, let me grab the original sheet that it came with. This is the project sheet that it came with. I'll slide those off to the side for a second. So you can see that the original design was to make 5 of this card and 5 of this card, and then you have 10 envelopes for all of your cards. If you didn't get this paper pumpkin, it's actually sold out, but I have one kit that I am going to be giving away. So if you just check below this video, there should be a link to my blog post. And if you go and comment on that blog post, there will be more details on the blog post regarding how you can win that. And I will send that to you. I'm sorry this is only in the United States, but good luck and Happy Christmas.